My name is Dr. Ginny Baro, your GCA host on GCA Studios, brought to you by Game Change Agency. I'm also a Fortune 100 executive coach, a #1 best-selling author of Fearless Women at Work, a speaker, and a leadership expert. As a CEO and founder of Fearless Women at Work, an executive coaching and career strategy company, we provide proven techniques and tactics for organizations and to support talented professionals at all levels of management to develop as leaders in business and in life. Today, I am honored to host Sarah Wall. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Well, today, Sarah and I will be discussing the art of finding balance and managing stress at work. And we can only imagine how important that is for us leaders who are at any point in time juggling conflicting agendas and looking to deliver the best results for our companies while bringing our best selves to work. So specifically, we'll be talking about understanding stress and how it affects our mental and physical well-being, how to restore balance through breath work and meditation, and also staying true to yourself and setting boundaries. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about Sarah. And by the way, Sarah is also a fellow technologist who's also a veteran in the technology industry. So Sarah is the owner of Body, Mind, Spirit Business and Life Coaching. She's also the co-founder of Yoga Vacations, right up my alley, Sarah. And where she provides a safe space for people to explore their inner world through yoga while traveling to beautiful destinations. Now, Sarah's own journey into yoga began about 20 years ago and has taken her around the world many times, sparking her passion to give back. Sarah is a proud board member of Helping Hands for India, where they built a school in northern India providing free education to almost 300 children. She's also the author of the book, Life Reboot, an inner wisdom guide to finding your passion and purpose, where she shares her story to inspire others who are also craving something more out of life. So Sarah, it's such an honor to have you here. And let's dive right in. Let's talk about what is your definition, Sarah, of finding balance and managing stress at work, which I'm sure will take us into the first topic of understanding stress and how it affects us physically and emotionally.
Yes, well, it can mean different things to different people. It can be very unique. But generally speaking, what it's meant for me is to be able to not only thrive at work, but thrive in life as well. We spend so much of our time at work with our colleagues, and quite often if we're finding ourselves being overworked or overtasked, especially in the technology industry where we're connected, we can be connected 24/7. And sometimes, it can be hard to switch off at the end of the day. You may not just work a typical 9-to-5 job. We can work in the evenings or early mornings, etc. So it's very easy to get out of balance. And when you're out of balance, there are many signs that are available to us. I call them signs of discord, and they don't always have to show up at work. They could show up in any aspect of your life.
So let's talk about some of those signs.
Yeah, it could start as just maybe a general, it could show up even something that is happening at work. It could show up in your relationship. You could start to get grumpy with your family members or your partner, or you could start to even be feeling disconnected from meeting up with friends, disengaged with life. It could be very subtle. It could be sometimes more serious, as leading to feelings of overwhelm, or it could even start to manifest in the physical body. And this is where, maybe people really start to notice. It could be headaches, for example, problems with the digestive system. There's any number of physical symptoms.
I know one of them is sleep or lack thereof, right? The inability to sleep well.
Sleeplessness, and the driver behind most of this, in my belief, is the inability to switch off the mind and actually our perception of what's going on. So sleeplessness is a very common one. What I hear from a lot of people is they cannot get to sleep at night, or they go to sleep, but they wake up and they're thinking about work. Their mind is buzzing. And if you're not well rested, you show up tired the next day and you're not able to perform at your best.
That's right. That's right. And so what are some of those that are some of the side effects, right, of feeling that stress? And I mean, all of us at some point or another have felt that stress, and we all have different ways in which we cope with it. So what are some of the ways that you recommend we can use to cope with the stress?
Well, the first step is recognizing it. So if you're experiencing any of these symptoms, it could be something else. First of all, check with your doctor. Make sure or your naturopath, make sure you're working with a professional to get to the root of the problem. But there are many things that you can do on your own as well to help cope with stress. So first is recognizing it before it gets to a serious point of, say, a panic attack, which I've witnessed, which is very scary. You can do such things as, even at your desk at work, is reminding yourself to take a break every hour. Get up, walk around if you're sitting at a desk, as most of us do in technology. Get up, take a walk around. Even sitting and taking a couple of deep breaths at your desk as well is helpful, just to switch off. Quite often, if you're like me, you're usually trying to multitask and, bouncing around from meeting to meeting, or writing up emails as you're about to take a call, for example. But just noticing, and it's a constant state of being present and aware of when you're starting to take on too much and starting to get too busy, is to take those micro breaks to help you pause throughout the day.
That's really helpful. And you said something that I want to kind of hone in on, which is mindfulness is so important in this whole process as we consider taking care of ourselves, because if we're not mindful of what we're feeling and just plow through it, that's when we get to the point of burnout and exhaustion and that overwhelm that sometimes is really hard to control and manage.
Exactly. And you find yourself in a state of reacting when you're in that, going, 100 miles an hour, rather than responding to situations. And if you are in that feeling of stress, it could lead to sometimes maybe being a little bit snappy with some of your colleagues when you don't intend to be. And it's only until you've made a remark because you're feeling stressed that you realize you have to step back and apologize. You don't want to get to that state. You want to remain, I think, more mindful and present and calm.
Yeah, I think what happens too is when you are feeling that stress and that being pulled in so many different directions, what I've noticed is that we are more worried about ourselves. In other words, we're not receiving the message that is being given to us and listening to it from an objective perspective, because we're just in survival mode. We're just reacting versus taking a second to acknowledge that perhaps the person who's addressing us has a need that we can fulfill by just taking a breath.
Exactly. And I'm glad you mentioned survival mode, because that ties very much into our breathing patterns. When we are stressed, we breathe very much in the top of our chest.
Interesting.
And it actually sends a signal to the body that, something is happening, and it sends it to your autonomic nervous system, which is actually the fight or flight response.
Interesting.
So even though you're not in any danger, by being constantly in that really shallow breathing state, you're telling your body that there is danger and there is stress, which is like a feedback loop.
It
releases more cortisol. It gets you more ready to be in that fight mode, where you really don't need to be. You're not in immediate danger, but your body perceives it as very real.
It does. So let's talk about how to restore balance through breath work and meditation. And this is right up my alley, because I began to practice transcendental meditation a few years back. And what I would do at work is, during the practice, you meditate twice a day. So for me, it was something that I did the first thing when I woke up in the morning. I would literally prop up in my bed, do my 20 minutes of meditation. get ready for work, get to work. And sometimes at the end of the day, I found it very, very helpful. Even if I was having a very stressful day, I was finding it helpful to stop for 5 minutes in my office, close the door, close my eyes for 5 minutes and meditate for 5 minutes. And I was a whole new person.
Yes, that's fabulous that you do it twice a day, and it's a brilliant way to reset. I typically start my own day every day with, it could be anywhere from 5 to 15, 20 minutes. It really depends on the day. And it's just having that time for me where I set up my day, and it usually starts with, a feeling of gratitude. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have this day, first of all. And whatever comes, meditation, we could talk for hours about all the different styles and types of meditation. But for anyone that's maybe getting started, I would encourage you not to give up right away, because I hear from so many people, I can't meditate. I try sitting still and my thoughts won't go away.
Yes.
And that's not the point of meditation. The thoughts are going to keep coming. But the point is, the more you practice, even if you started 2 minutes at a time and just sit, that can be quite agitating and scary for some people.
Yes.
But allow yourself to sit for 2 minutes. And if things are starting to arise, like maybe nervous feelings or anxiety or that feeling of, oh, there's too many thoughts, I would encourage people just to sit anyway and know that you're safe. You're in a safe space, assuming you're in your home. And just notice what arises. Try it again the next day. Try it again the next day. And because quite often people give up really quickly, and they say, meditation doesn't work for me. But I believe
exactly.
You will notice the benefits over time.
You do. And one of the techniques that I share with my clients is, if you aren't following any one particular mode of meditation, the easiest one I found is there's an app called Muse, Muse, that kind of has different meditation styles. One of them, the ones they share that I was really impressed with was the one where you simply close your eyes and you count from 1 to 10. And when you get to 10, you start at 1 again. And thoughts will come and go, and you will lose track of counting. And when you lose track of counting, you go back to, once you realize, oh, I drifted, you go back to start, to counting at 1 again. And that is one way. And also using your phone to time yourself, because sometimes when you're in that state with your eyes closed, you don't realize how long it's been. And so you may get anxious as to, how long have I been doing this? So I would set my timer for whatever time I wanted to meditate, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's fabulous. And that's key, is having the mind focus on one thing, because it likes to jump around. Another way is to focus on your breathing. So you can follow, even placing your hands on your belly and counting in for 3. So imagine you're filling your chest for 1, your rib cage for 2, your belly for 3. Pause for a second and then exhale for 3, 2, 1. Just following that cycle for a couple of minutes, it resets that signal I was mentioning earlier, that shallow breathing in the chest. It resets and allows your body, it sends a signal to your body to relax, which you can change it in seconds.
Right, exactly. That's excellent. Thank you so much for that, Sarah. And so we talked about breath work and meditation. And so let's talk about staying true to yourself and setting boundaries. What is that about from your perspective?
Well, in my own experience, I tend to take on a lot. As a manager, it's important to recognize that you're not the only team member on the team, and that you're not responsible for everything. It's really about teamwork at work. And being a good leader is recognizing, the strengths and the talents of the people around you. And if you are starting to take on too much, what I like to do is listen to my body, listen to my gut feeling. So if someone were to, my boss were to approach me and ask me, can you take on this new project? If knowing that I already have a full schedule, rather than just say yes and start to work, crazy hours of overtime, which I have done in the past and hasn't served me.
We will have.
Yeah, exactly. Is actually to take a moment, listen to my body. And if my gut is getting that twinge and it's saying, no, you're already too busy, it's just to actually say no. It's okay to say no.
Yeah. And I would actually add to that, that's when we really need to tap into our team, right? Because when you think about developing other leaders, that's sometimes an opportunity for someone in the team who may be ready to take on that project to step up.
Exactly. And maybe in my experience, I would serve as a mentor for that person rather than
Absolutely.
myself.
Absolutely. And it's a win-win, right? Because the project is getting done, somebody's actually doing it that's qualified to do it, that person's growing. They're probably thrilled to be in the, in the role of giving that extra responsibility that they desire to, that's something that they desire to do as well. And you're self-caring and you're setting boundaries around what is possible. Because at the end of the day, if we take on too much, we're going to be very shallow across
Yes.
the board than doing a really excellent job. And it's not about perfectionism. It's about really being realistic about the number of hours in the day and the amount of work that we can accomplish.
Yeah, totally. And you hit the nail on the head. If you're spread too thin, you're not effective in your job anymore. And you're showing up as a leader, you're setting that example for your team of
Right.
being frazzled, and that actually spreads throughout the team.
It does. It does. There's nothing more. People don't realize sometimes that your energy, how you show up to work, and whether you're peaceful, grounded, confident, or whether you are frazzled, you are just putting out fires left and right, that people around you get that feeling and they react accordingly.
Yes, I've worked in places like that very early in my career where I worked with managers who were exhibiting that behavior and that energy. And even though I wasn't overloaded, I was picking up on that, and I was feeling, wow, this is a really busy, busy
Stressful,
place to work.
stressful place to work. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that I'm glad you bring that up because as leaders, we are setting the tone, right? We are
Yes.
the ones really guiding and being role models for the people in our teams, in our organizations. And so the fact that we are taking responsibility for our well-being and we're saying, you know what, this is too much or something needs to be redirected, I think that is responsible. And that engenders a culture of openness and sharing so that if anybody else on the team is also feeling the same way, that they can feel open to bring that up and share that information.
Yeah, it's very important as leaders. I think we also need to respect when one of our team members is saying no to us and why, and inquiring why, not just assuming that they don't want to take on the work or they're being a bad employee, for example. So what do we ask of ourselves? It's important to respect the same from our team members.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And understanding them, right? Understanding what's the situation with them, and that's where coaching comes in. I believe that being a manager who has coaching skills can be so helpful because as a coach, you're always curious and you're always creating a safe space for people to self-express and to push them to be open in a compassionate way so that they feel safe being open with you. And so the question that I would ask in that case is, what is going on? Is a very open-ended, non-judgmental question. What's going on with you?
Yeah, and getting
How is
people
it going? And people will actually tell you. And then you may find out that, sometimes people have a family member who's in the hospital, so they have to run after work to go visit them, or something is happening in their life in general that's really stressful that they may be having trouble coping with. And I'm not saying that we're going to become psychologists in the office, but as leaders, we do want to be connected to our employees and really understand what's happening with them at a level that's professional, but yet supportive.
I like that you said compassion. That's an important part.
It
It's not a
is.
word that I've found that comes up too much, especially in the technology workspace, but it is actually rising more and more. And
I
more
believe so.
like yourself and me and many of the other women and men that are out there doing fabulous work is bringing some more of that softer style of leadership with compassion. I think that's super.
Absolutely. Well, we're talking about engaging our employees, right? And that's one of the biggest problems we have today as leaders. So how do we do that if we don't connect with them?
Exactly. That's number
It's
one.
almost like we want to create engaging workplaces, but we're not willing to connect with our employees. So right there's a problem, right?
And even beyond that, it starts with, going back to that morning routine, connecting with yourself and showing up grounded yourself first. So then you can connect with others.
Exactly. So thank you, Sarah. This has been such an interesting conversation. Is there anything else you want to share with us? Tell us how to get in touch with you.
Yes, you can find me on Facebook at Body, Mind, Spirit Coach. And from there, you can find links to my website and my other social media channels. And for your listeners today, I'm excited to offer, if anyone does want to join my community through my mailing list, I'll be giving away 5 copies of my book, Life Reboot.
Thank you so much. That is so generous of you.
Yeah,
So
no problem.
they will find that by going to your website?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, so bodymindspiritcoach.com, right?
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you learned some tactics and techniques to lower the stress in your everyday life. And feel free to reach out to Sarah Wall, and she'll be more than happy to answer any additional questions that you have about how to deal and manage stress. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you very much.
We'll talk soon.